So the first question, I found this on YouTube, I found this on Facebook. It's the secret to getting ahead is getting started. That's a statement. What is stopping you from getting started today? So, first of all, I'm not sure that I agree with this idea that the secret of getting ahead is getting started. In fact, there is only one situation when that can be true. I guess if you are the one starting and everyone else is going to not start, it's like everyone just stays put at the same place, yeah, you would be getting ahead, but that's not very relevant. So I don't agree with the fact that the secret of getting ahead is getting started. No, it's not. The secret of getting ahead is, well, a few things. Is start, continue, accelerate, go faster than other people, don't fall in the same traps, don't make the same mistakes, continue when others would stop, and things like that. This is how you get ahead, right? So again, not agree to the statement, but let's get to the question. What is stopping you from getting started today? Well, okay, so what most people, or what stops most people to getting started today is basically, I would say, two things, but obviously there are more than this. But let's start with the obvious. People don't start because they are stuck. When people are stuck, well, guess what? It's kind of like they stopped in kind of like in a chronicle way. It's not like, oh, I stopped today and I'm going to resume tomorrow. No, people sometimes feel stuck for weeks and months and years. And well, this is one of the reasons why they are not starting. It's because they are stuck. And second reason why people are not starting today, it's because, well, there is always another day. Right? They didn't make a decision, a conscious decision. Hey, I'm going to start tomorrow, next week, on 1st of January, on my birthday, on this. No, they just wait for something to happen. So they are going to start somewhere in the future, but this future is not really, it's not really clear. It's not really determined. So they are kind of waiting for that future to arrive. And sure enough, it never will. So let's get to the next one. What addictions do you have and what are that are holding you back? So this is another question I found on Facebook. First of all, people are not going to respond to this question. You're not going to get very valuable answers, truthful answers. Here is why. Because people will not see their addictions as bad. People are going to defend their addictions. They are going to rationalize. They're going to invent reasons why this is not an addiction. And even if it is, it's not that bad. That kind of thing when you ask somebody, say, hey, like smoking is bad. Why don't you quit smoking? Or why do you continue to smoke, right? Well, I want to smoke. Like I want, right? So the addiction is no longer a problem. It's something that they want, they deserve it, or it kind of gives them something as like a reward. They feel good and all of that. So therefore they don't see it as an addiction. So asking people what addictions do you have that are holding you back, it's not going to, you're not going to get very truthful answers because people don't see that. And even if they would see that smoking is bad, they don't want to see it. They don't want to see, oh, this is holding me back. Next one. Wealth should be created from a place of meaning. Another question which starts with a statement. Wealth should be created from a place of meaning. It should be meaningful wealth. Agree or disagree? Generally speaking, I agree. But keep in mind that, person here, Michelle, asking this question, she asks using this label meaning and meaningful from her own perspective. So she has her own definition, just like everyone else has maybe a different definition of what meaning and meaningful is or means. So what's really interesting about this is that people ask all the time, they ask questions, and I kind of expect that when other people answer to their questions, they're asking coming from the same angle from which they're asking the question. They are expecting that people have this kind of the same levels, the same labels, the same definitions, but in fact this is not true. We just use labels, but what is inside the label, in this case it's meaningful or meaning, most people would have kind of different definitions, sometimes radical, sometimes very similar. That's why for example, the word love. What do you mean by love? Well, love means many things for many people. But when people ask themselves, like, hey, do you love me? Right? The question is posed, is asked from the person that is asking the question, from his or her context, right? And the person responding, yes, I do love you, they're responding from their perspective. But people don't understand that, well, there is a difference, and what you are asking, it's not what is answered. So, just keep that in mind. Do you feel like your ability to plan and organize is helping you or hurting you as you work towards your goals? Well, I would find it rarely the case that your ability to organize things would hurt you. Now, the way this looks like the question is asked, it feels like, oh, sometimes your ability to help or your ability to organize might actually be a way for you to procrastinate, to avoid doing things. You're always in planning mode and all of that. But even in that case, what is really hurting you is not your ability to organize, because that's useful. There is something else that is hurting you that looks like your ability to organize. You see where I'm going from? Butterflies, as in like, hey people, how did you transform your past painful divorce/separation experience into a positive lesson? 222 unhappy people responded to this. So I want you to first, before we answer to this, I want you to first notice the question. You see I want to focus on the last part, and here I have a very sexy tool. Here's what I can do. Yes. I want to underline the positive lesson, which I did. You see, the person asking this is like, how do you transform, also let's put this. Okay. How do you transform, as in transform, a past painful divorce or separation experience into a positive lesson? Well, first of all, I don't think here maybe transform is used as kind of like framed or reframed. So let's say you have a past experience and you reframe it, right? This is, I hope, that the person means by transform, because you cannot really transform anything. You can just reframe it, like look at it from a different angle. You know what happened, you know the facts, but you kind of, you can decide to change the frame, kind of how you translate it, or how you transcribe it, what's the meaning that you give. So this is what this person hopefully means by transform. But I want you now to look at the second part of the question, is like, how do you make that experience into a positive lesson? Well, first of all, who says that lessons should always be positive? You see, sometimes we're looking to always have it right. We try to have it perfect. Like, let me take this very shitty experience and let me make it like very positive, like a positive lesson. Well, sometimes, honestly, in real life, your lessons are going to be very painful. They are not going to look like very positive. But what really matters is that you get something out of it. What really matters is that you learn something. And that's the kind of like the positivity. It's not related to the lesson. It's not a positive lesson, but what is positive about the lesson is the fact that you learn. Does this make sense? Hopefully. Let's go to the next one. If you could flick your fingers, change one thing in your life in an instant, what would it be and why? Okay, so basically I have two angles on this. You see, we have in our lives, we have things that we deserve. That means like we kind of like work for them. And we have things that are kind of like a given. A given is like your height, the way you look, and things like that, right? Well, the way you look beyond the transformation that you can do to yourself. If you go to the gym and you exercise and you transform your body, you might become more attractive. So there is an element of that. But your height pretty much it's kind of like a given. You didn't do anything for it. You cannot work for it. Okay, maybe you could play basketball, but hey, I don't know. So from this angle, there are things that you work for, and therefore you might actually work enough put enough effort, so you deserve them, and there are things that are kind of a given, so you don't have to do anything special for them. They are just there. From this perspective, I would definitely, because most people would think about money right now. It's like, oh, I want money, I want a house, I want a swimming pool. Well, kind of like if you have the money, you can buy the rest of them, right? So let's put it like money. I would not flick my finger. If I would have this power, I would not flick my fingers like, you know what, I want 10 million bucks. And I would actually literally not. Like, when I say this, I mean it. It's not like I say it just because, secretly I know that this is just a fantasy, it's just a question, it's not real. So, no, actually I would not. This is what I mean. So as I was saying, I will not wish for the money or for the whatever material possessions that I should be working for, because I would not feel that I deserve them. See how this goes? And that, like, the problems would actually go and extend even beyond that. It's not just that I would not feel like I deserve them, but it would hurt my efforts to want to become more. Let me give an example. I am a life coach. And as a life coach, I work also. I hire, clients hire me. I work with clients, and I'm very happy with what I'm doing, and I'm enjoying every bit of the progress that I'm getting, and I enjoy the money that I'm getting, and I am on a journey. Now, every time when I do something in the right direction, I put in the efforts, I work with myself to become better, I get a new client, I help the client through a transformational process, I feel I deserve my results. I feel like I am literally getting to the next level, and whatever I'm getting, whatever I am every day as, getting better, or getting better than yesterday and the last week and so on, I feel I deserve it. I feel I am where I should be. As I was saying, if you would give me, like, right now, it's like I could flick my fingers and it's like, okay, I want $100 million. This would ruin my career. Like, literally, this would be one of the most terrible things that could happen to me, and I would literally decline it. Why? It's because whatever I achieve, I want to deserve it. That's it. I want to deserve it. If that is something that it should be up for me to work through, solve problems, work up obstacles and so on, to achieve whatever I will achieve, that is my responsibility. And money, or just flicking your fingers, will take away, and they will rob all of that away from you. They will ruin your life. Because at this point, you have, let's say you wish for $1 billion or something like that. If you get $1 billion and you didn't do anything to get them, you are fucked. Like, you are ruined. You are literally ruined. Because it's not sustainable. You didn't work through your, with yourself to get better, to establish a business. In my case, to get better, so I scale my business, I have more impact, I deliver more value to the people. No, I just have the money. I already, bam, all the results, everything that you would want financially, you have it. So therefore, what would be the reason to continue to work? No reason. No reason. At that point, you are literally you are screwed up. However, and this is how I would say, it goes twofold. However, if this question would be about something that you don't work towards, you don't work for being taller, let's say, I would think about it. I'm kind of like an average person in height, and I would be tempted to flick my fingers and, get myself taller. I think so. I think I would do it. With that, I'm pretty sure. Why? It's because, well, again, being taller or shorter, this is not something that this is not something that you chose. You're not working for it. Whatever you do, you're going to be the same height. So it's just like, if I would have a choice, yeah, I would choose that. But my material possessions, no. And what would be and why? Well, in my case, why would I want to be taller? I guess because sometimes I feel insecure about it. I guess so. It's like, I'm a life coach, but I'm also honest to myself. So yeah, I guess that's why. So next one. Please let me know what is stopping you from your dreams, goals, and great happy life. What is the most important thing? It says think, but anyway, what is the most important thing for you to change? What can you do now to change it, and what can you do to change in the future? See more. I don't need to see more. This is a pretty bad question. So first of all, it's a bad question because most people don't know what is holding them back. They don't know what they need for them to change, but they think they do. And that's kind of like the key, kind of like this is the worst thing of it. Is like when you ask people those type of questions, and by the way, this is a coach, so you know I've checked. So when you ask people, is like what do you need? People think they need, but they will tell you what they actually want. When you ask them this, they will tell you what they want, but sometimes what they want is not what they actually need to get there, and therefore it's just like the answers are just useless. It's just like they lead you in the wrong directions. What do you do if you're feeling down / or kind of like hashtag depressed? What do you do if you're feeling down? In my case, but this is also applies, like if you would ask me what you should do, is this. First, acknowledge that you are feeling down. You have to get in contact. You have to become aware of what's going on. Most people, they feel down for days and weeks and months, and sometimes, you know, people feel like they're always down because it's kind of like a chronic thing at this point, and they never realized it. You know, like maybe you have this friend, you go like, hey, how are you feeling? It's like, man, today it was terrible, it was bad, it was this, it was that. And when you ask them day by day by day, the answer is always the same. They're always feeling down, but they don't realize it. And you ask them, it's like, but are you happy? It's like, yeah, of course. Of course I'm happy, man. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because at this point, it was this pattern, you're spinning in this pattern for so long that it become chronic, and you don't even realize, just like a fish doesn't see the water, you don't see that you are always down and depressed, right? So the first thing that anybody should do when you feel down is acknowledge. Otherwise, you are not going to become aware that you are feeling down. But you see, the question says like, what do you do if you're feeling down? Well, feeling down in this context means that you somehow implies that you are already aware that you are feeling down, which is not necessarily the case for most people. Most people don't feel the down as in like, oh, I am down. They kind of like, you know, they feel shitty, but they don't understand that I am down. They feel like, oh, this is normal, you know, something like that. So first is becoming aware. I'm feeling down. Second, because you have this piece of information, is, okay, why? What's going on? If this would be my case, or if you would ask me, what should I do? It's like, okay, ask yourself why. If this would be like a coaching session, we would, you know, like I would ask you a bunch of questions to find out why you feel down. Like, what's going on? Where did it started? Like, what are the reasons? You know, like just to, in an attempt to kind of like search to see what we can grab, what is the loose thread, so we can grab to, you know, to get you to a better place. But first, that starts with awareness. You are feeling down. Okay, why you are feeling down? And at one point, if you kind of give yourself enough context, and you go like, oh, well, I think it's because of this and because of that, this happened and I reacted to this, this person said this to me, and this is how that made me feel. As you uncover more of the potential reasons of why you are feeling down, at one point you're going to go like, oh, I kind of understand why I'm feeling down, right? If you have enough information, that information at one point is going to make sense. You go like, oh, you have that aha moment. You go like, oh, now I understand why, right? Now, if you understand that you're feeling down, you understand also why, then the question is like, what can you do about it? It's like, okay, I'm feeling down, but do I want to continue this way? No, hell no. Do I want to change it? Absolutely. So then the next question will be, okay, what can I do about it, right? How can I address this? And of course, the answer is going to somehow be in the information that you already have. Knowing that, oh, I'm feeling down because, well, I had kind of like a fight with my girlfriend, or I don't know, she broke up with me or something like that, and that is why I'm feeling down. Well, there you go. There you go. You already know at least what you can do about it, but this is how it starts. So, what do you do when you're feeling down? First of all, realize that you're feeling down, understand why, and ask yourself, what can I do about it? And then follow up with the steps until the feeling is no longer there and you feel like, oh, ooh, I feel good. Great. Next. How does having a life coach benefit a person? God, I got this question a lot. And I feel like I answered this question like a billion gazillion times. But I will say it one more time because this time it's kind of recorded. So, yeah. How does having a life coach benefit a person? Well, assumption is, so I'm going to come from this place that you mean like a life coach that actually is a life coach and not just one that has the diplomas, the one that actually knows what he or she is doing. I'm going to come from this perspective because just as with any other profession, as a life coach, there are people who know they are doing, they are experts with what they are doing, they are really good, they really can provide a lot of value that you cannot even pay for. They are giving you so much value and you are going to just pay for them for their time. And there are other people who are going to be very expensive even if they are paying them very cheap, because it's going to be a waste of time because they don't know what they are doing. So I'm going to come from this perspective. Hopefully let's address how a good life coach is useful. Well, first of all, a good life coach has a few things. One of which is perspective. A good life coach, because he has experience, like real life experience, not just like he read the books and like has diplomas. No, I mean like real life experience. Because he has like a lot of real life experience and also worked with a lot of clients, he has perspective. He or she has perspective. Well, that perspective is super valuable because oftentimes you are confused. Life is spent in confusion. Most of the times, we spend our life transitioning between confusion to clarity, right? For example, when you're just dropped in the maze and you're like a kid, you're very confused about everything and nothing. You don't understand anything. Like, you don't understand things at so much or at this level that you need other people like grownups, your parents, other grownups to explain to you reality. No, don't do that. Oh, yes, you should do that. Oh, it's like, no, it's not good to put your hand there. It's like reality at this point has to be explained to you. But then as you grow up, as you transition, as you mature, as you start to accumulate knowledge and you get a bit more perspective, at this point, things start to make sense. At this point, you understand more. You start to become more clear about things that in the past you were very confused about. If when you were a kid, you always ask your mom, why are the birds flying? Mom, why is the sky blue? Why, mom, why is this? Dad, why is this, right? You always ask, so you're very confused about a lot of things. As you transition, as you grow up, as you accumulate perspective, many of those things are going to be more clear. You understand some things, right? Well, the more you understand, the more clear you get about your life, about things and life and people and your goals and projects and things that you want to do and about yourself, and you expand this knowledge into perspective, right? Well, what I just described is the transition between confusion and clarity. Well, guess what? That doesn't mean that if you reach 18 years old and you know that you understand why the sky is blue, hopefully, or you understand why, I don't know, you need to drink water, why you need to sleep, and basic things like that. That doesn't mean that you are going to be clear about everything, because you are always going to become clear about some things, but as you progress, as you advance, you are going to become unclear about other higher level things, right? At first, in the first years of your life, you are going to be unclear about, okay, mom, why dogs don't speak English, right? But then as you are, let's say, 25 and you are like a project manager, you understand why dogs don't speak, maybe, hopefully, but you are going to become unclear, you are going to become confused about other things. Now you have bigger problems. You have other more sophisticated, more complex problems to solve, and you are still confused. You see? And as you progress, you solve those problems, you become clear about those, but you become unclear about others, bigger problems. Well, coming back to the question, why is having a life coach benefit a person? Well, mainly because you are going to spend, since the day you are born until the day you die, you spend your life between confusion and clarity on many different threads, projects, goals, dreams, directions that you choose to chase. You're always going to transition between confusion and clarity. So, a life coach, a good life coach that has real life experience, works with a lot of people, and cares about your progress is going to have that perspective necessary that whatever project you have, whatever problem, whatever confusion you are currently fighting with, it's going to help you through that perspective. It's going to help you to, to uncover some reasons, what's holding you back, what can we do, elaborate the strategy and the plan, how to move further, and then assist you into doing that, following that consistently until you get and transition successfully to clarity. Hopefully this makes sense. Okay, so let's get on the next one. Boy, that was big, right? How do you let go to someone dear to you and contributed to who you are? This is questions from the internet. So how do you, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm reading this correctly. So how do you let go to someone dear to you and contributed to who you are now? Okay, so that's not proper English from Tamar Mar. Okay, maybe, okay, that's why. So I will, clear up the question. So how do you let go to someone dear that also contribute to who you are now? So first of all, I think if you have to, because this is kind of like the frame that the question comes from, if you have to let this person go, right? You have to first make sure that, well, you should let this person go, because you see, if this person contributed to who you are right now, chances are that this was a person that was important to you, and you have to make sure that letting go is the right thing, because sometimes it's not, right? Just because you should be appreciative of what they have done or the kind of the positive impact they had in your life. But if you had this conversation with yourself and you realize, yes, this former teacher or person or whatever or friend, yes, they helped me to be where I am, but you know what, because of this, where this would be like, I don't know what problems, bad things they are doing, I have to let them go. Okay, in that case, if you decide and you did your math and at the end of it you still decide that, oh, I have to let them go, I think the proper way to do it would be by saying thank you. You have to, absolutely, if you didn't already, and even if you did, you have to one more time say thank you to this person. Like, thank you, yes, but not necessarily just with your words, but be appreciative of the impact they had in your life. And then you can let this person go. But you cannot do that until they know that you really appreciate that they were there for you and they had a great positive impact in their life. Okay, what's the next? How do you rebuild trust in a relationship? How do you rebuild trust? That's a big one. Well, there are kind of like two, this question kind of goes in two directions. First of all, the hard, rebuilding trust is very hard. It's very hard because you cannot take back time. Here is the thing. Let's say that, you are in a relationship, in a romantic relationship, and let's say that he or she is cheating on you. You find out and you lose trust with this person. Like, this was a conversation that you had upfront, you were very upfront about. It's like, hey, this is not what we do. Like, please don't do that. Like, this is going to be very bad. You have this conversation and still this person does it. You find out about it, and what do you do now? Well, you have to understand what is really going on at this point. At this point, let's say that you just found out that this person has been cheating on you. and you feel like, oh, I lost my trust. I cannot really feel like trusting you because you cheated on me. Like you literally deceived me, knowing that we had like an understanding, we had like a deal about it. Like we decided that this is not you betrayed me, and you said something and you did something else, you did something behind my back, and now I cannot trust you. So in this case, what can you do to rebuild the trust in a relationship? Well, that is very hard because you cannot take back time. You cannot take back what you did. Like you are not Superman to go circle the globe very, very fast, like reverse the spinning of the globe and like take back time, as in the movie, right? So coming from this perspective, it's almost impossible because again, what is done, it remains done, and that's it. That can never be taken back. Even if the person will, like you say, I'm sorry, and or this person says to you, I'm sorry, and it's like, oh, they are, they're bending over backwards to take it back. Even if you, let's say, you say, yes, okay, no problem, okay, I forgive you. Those are your words, because deep down inside, it's not the same story. Deep down inside, another story is happening. And this story might not necessarily become obvious right now as you say, yes, I forgive you, but it will become obvious next time when they do something a lot smaller. Next time when they do some dumb shit, some little dumb shit, this time is going to look like out of proportion, because when you are judging what they are doing, what they have been doing, or what they have done, you are not judging just that. You tend to put that in the context of this, like, oh, you also have been cheating on me, and now you do this. And although that would be small, it's going to be blown out of proportions because, well, again, the context is no longer just that. The context is always going to be, people are going to be tempted to take in context everything. And that's why it's going to be almost impossible, like, to really forget, to really forgive. But coming back to the question, okay, I understand that it's impossible. It's like, but what can it be done to rebuild trust in a relationship? Here's what can be done. But there is no guarantee that is going to work long term. Short term, yes, you might get the boyfriend, the girlfriend back, but long term, there is no guarantee. Just, disclaimer. So what can be done? Well, first, like, basically there are two things. First, you have to get another chance. Like, this person should be willing to, to accept to spend more time with you, so you can demonstrate, you start to demonstrate back that you have changed, that you will not do it again, that you are trustworthy. But that's first. First, you have to get another chance, or this person at least not to break up with you, because if they break up with you, well, you have zero chances, and that's it. Like, this is where the end. So first, make sure that this is not the end. If this is not the end and you have another chance and you can somehow still prove yourself, make sure that you are going to deliver every day honesty and integrity. And when you say something, you do it. Even when you feel like something is hard to say or to admit, especially the things that you feel, you do that, you say that, and you become very honest about how you feel. And hopefully, in time, this kind of damage is going to be somehow repaired. Again, it's never going to be repaired entirely because you cannot make things disappear. So, curious, what stops you from moving forward? Ooh, this is one of those questions. For most people, a lot of things. But I think in a way I kind of addressed this. What stops people from moving forward is because they somehow feel stuck. But I have a different angle on this one, and I will add it. So on top of everything that I just said, there is one more thing, and this is very, very, it's very tricky. And it's a pattern in so many people. Actually, it's a pattern in almost as many people as would say or describe themselves as being stuck. Here's what I mean. People who feel they are stuck, most of the times they're actually using that as an excuse because they don't want to move forward. They really don't. They are afraid of the work. They are afraid of the responsibility. They are afraid of the unknown. They feel just very comfortable being here, not trying to break this comfort zone, trying to go into the unknown. Just like God knows how much work and problems and struggles that means. I'm comfortable here. And then they invent some, imaginary limitations for why they could not really go forward. It's like I cannot go to the gym to lose weight because I have 3 quick kids and I don't have time. Yeah, or I cannot do this because, well, my husband or my wife or my... People invent reasons, and what is really... And those reasons make absolute sense for them. It becomes their reality. It becomes like, legitimate reasons why they could not move forward. But in reality, what is stopping them from moving forward in this case, they're stopping themselves. But they're inventing a very good story for why they cannot move forward, because otherwise they would feel like a failure. The reason why people invent those stories, it's because otherwise, without the story, they would not have a real something that looks like a legitimate reason for why they cannot advance further, and that would put kind of the blame, the responsibility back on them. It's like, hey, you are not moving forward because you are lazy. You are not moving forward because you are afraid. You are not moving forward because you don't want to move forward. And people don't want to admit this to themselves. So what's the cheapest way to do that? We invent stories, reasons, and all of that. So what's preventing us from moving forward sometimes? This guy. You want to create your own online course, but you think that you have nothing to teach. Would you let me to prove you wrong? This is not really a real question. It's more like a person baiting people to get clients. That's what this is about. It's like, when I see things like this, I'm like, another one. But okay, so basically those are the people that are kind of like ruining. Like if you say like you're a life coach and people go like, oh, you're a life coach, that's what I mean. It's like people ask questions, but the purpose of the question is to actually let me get more clients. It's like, let me prove you wrong, so therefore I can sell you something. Okay. So what's in here? You want to create an online course, but I remember, but you want to, but you think that you have nothing to teach. Let me prove you wrong. Okay, so basically, this coach, what he or she is saying is that you always have something to teach. That's kind of the underlying idea. You always have something to teach. Let me prove you wrong. But what I would argue, and this is why I remember that I crop it, and so I want to discuss it. What I would argue is like, yeah, everyone has something to teach. But is it valuable? Is it something that you can create a course that people would pay real money for it? That's the question. You see, the kind of like the false dichotomy here is like, oh, you always have something to teach. And if you think that you have nothing to teach, let me prove you wrong, because everyone has something to teach. I agree with the fact that everyone has something to teach, but again, in the marketplace where people have to take, put their hand in the pocket and take real money and pay for something that you have delivered, that's a different story. So you see how kind of like the question is framed as in everyone has something to teach, and you can create a course and you can make money. The first part is the only one that is right. Everyone has something to teach. But it doesn't mean that everyone can create a course that other people would pay money for. That part is not really true. How do you impact others? Okay, from Dominic. How do you impact others? Impact. You see the keyword in here? Let me play with the tool. I didn't use it in a while. I love this. Yes. So how do you impact others? This question can be framed in many different ways, but how do you impact others? Well, impact. Here's kind of like the angle that I'm coming from. Maybe, and I want you to imagine right now, I want you to imagine a ball, like a little tiny ball, like a little tiny marble. Okay, so it's round, it's shiny, it's whatever, and kind of it moves. Or imagine, even better, imagine like a billiard, like a pool, that game pool where you shoot, like you have a stick and you try to put the balls in the holes. Okay, that one. So imagine that you are one of those balls. You are like the 8 black. Good. And now imagine that you, as you are this ball, on the table, as this is your life or your context, you are moving in a certain direction. Now, impact would be me as a life coach, or as an author, because you can have impact in other ways, right? It would mean that I would kind of impact you and change your trajectory, change the direction in which you are going. That is how I would describe impact. Because if you have a direction, you are moving in a certain direction. Let's say that you are heading into, I don't know, into chaos, or you are heading into bankruptcy. And then you get a financial accountant or something like that who comes in and goes like, hey, stop. No, that's really bad. Stop. Here is why this is a problem. Here is what we can do about it. Here is why we should do it. That's impact. It's kind of like this person comes in, sees and understands your direction, can look ahead and go like, oh, you're heading into bankruptcy. That's not really good. That's not the hole in which you want to go into, because you're going to lose the game. And then with knowledge and expertise kind of impacts your direction and changes the direction into something else, hopefully something better. So coming back to the question, how do you impact others? Well, you first identify their trajectory. You identify what they are doing, what that creates and will create in the future. Basically, what is the direction that they're heading. And if you can have them have or reach to a better direction than they are currently heading to, you can impact them by delivering expertise and relevant knowledge in a way that they're going to change and adjust their direction to something better than they initially would actually get or otherwise get. That's how you impact others. Okay, hopefully you can appreciate that appreciate the different angle that I'm coming from. Let's see, do we have other questions? Yes, let's take this one. What would you never want to change about yourself and why? I would take this question as like not what I would not change about myself. I would take it as like, if you would be my client and ask me what I should never change about myself, here is what I believe. But to explain that, I need to first explain, what is there to be changed and what it's not to be changed. You see, as you progress through life, one of the things that you are doing is you try to understand the external world. You are also trying to understand yourself. Does this make sense? Of course, at first, you're going to try to understand the world. Your sensors are going to be externally. You're going to look at the world around you. It's like, mommy, what's that? Mommy, what's that? Right? And you learn about the world externally. At one point, when kind of that happens enough, when you understand a lot or enough about the world externally, you are going to start to be curious about yourself. And this is where you start to uncover, like, okay, how am I special? How am I unique? How am I different than other people? This is where you kind of constructed that bubble, which is you, like you as separate, as distinct from other people. As you become aware of that and you discover yourself, right, you're going to discover some things. Some of the things are going to be good. Some of the things are not going to be so great. You're going to discover some strengths and weaknesses. Some strengths are going to be so powerful that it's kind of like a superpower. It's kind of like where your genius is. And other weaknesses are going to be so terrible that they're kind of like defects and you need to get rid of them, right? So what you should never change about yourself, it's this part. It's your genius. It's your superpower. It's what makes you special and unique. It's what makes you different. Basically, that which only you can bring in this world, that unique message that nobody else can bring, that you should never change. Burned out. The word burned out. It's like you are done. Or you are tired, that kind of thing. Okay, so let's take this angle. I think one of the real reasons, I'm not saying it's the only one, is that you are going at a faster rate, at a faster pace than you can currently sustain. To explain that, let me give an example. I run every day. And as I run every day, I notice that if sometimes I run too fast, I feel like, oh, I'm out of breath and I feel like, oh, shit, I need to slow down. If I'm running too slow, I get bored. It's like, oh, this doesn't feel like running. It's like I should pick up the pace. I should run faster. Now, burnout happens when you try to sustain a pace that is not sustainable for you yet, and you want to sustain that for a longer period. At one point, it starts to become obvious. The moment when you feel the burnout is the moment where you feel like, oh, I'm out of breath. It's that feeling when I'm out of breath. It's like you're trying to run too fast, you're going to try to do too many things, and your current level of fitness, let's say, right, level of fitness will not allow you to do that. Now, does it mean that you have some very strict limit boundaries to what you can do? No, because those you can always adjust. Well, in fact, what actually adjusts is that as you practice more, in my case, as I run more and more and more, my level of fitness increases and I can run faster, and therefore my burnout, the point where I feel too tired kind of like also goes higher. So this is kind of the angle that I'm going for. So if you feel burnout, please remember that you just need to slow down a little bit to a point where it feels sustainable. But then as you continue and you upgrade yourself and upgrade the process and you make things more efficient in the way you do it, you are going to be able to pick up the pace, to pick up the speed, to do more, and you are not going to feel burned out just because now you are at a different level, and at this level the burnout also is higher. So that's also a solution for you. Do you think overthinking creates procrastination? So I don't think that overthinking creates procrastination. I think that you can procrastinate by overthinking. Now, what's the distinction? Well, the distinction is that you can procrastinate in many ways, right? Out of which overthinking would be just one very smart way for you to trick yourself that you are doing something important, but in fact you are not. And that's not to say that when you think something thoroughly, like in depth, in detail, that's procrastination, because it's not. So coming from this angle, do you think overthinking creates procrastination? As in, like, the question is almost as if you overthink, does it mean that you are going to procrastinate? No, because sometimes you need to overthink. Sometimes you need to go in depth, in detail, and think about a specific problem for hours, days, if not even weeks or months. So, that's not COVID. So, do I think overthinking creates procrastination? No. Do I think that you can procrastinate overthinking things? Yes. What's the distinction? Well, do you need to overthink or you don't? When you overthink things when that's not really necessary, yes, that could generate or lead or become procrastination. When you overthink things or you think things deeply, that's not even overthinking, that's thinking properly. So that's kind of the distinction. What needs to change for you to be ready for a long-term relationship? Mainly, you should, I guess, the question comes from there is a certain assumption that you are not ready for a long-term relationship. Well, what would need to change for you to be ready for a long-term relationship? I guess the very things that make you favor short-term relationships. Those are exactly the ones that need to change. Does this make sense? So you have to identify what makes me want a short-term relationship, and then exactly those things should change. Not very sexy, but yeah. What do you do or want to do to make your mind a nice place to be in? Well, if you want to make your mind a nice place to be in, I think you should get perspective. Because you see, most of the times where people are depressed and they feel like they are in a bad place, it's because they are trapped in a very limited perspective. Like they believe something that is just like a limited view. It's something that doesn't really consider the many options, the many things they could do to improve their situation, but they see life from a very narrow perspective, which looks bad from this perspective, just because they are kind of zooming in on one aspect of their life, and therefore the mind is a bad, shitty place to be in, and also emotional state is the same, it will follow. Because that's the case, because they focus on this, the antidote to that is just like widen the perspective. It's just like read more, get in contact with more people, like get perspective, get to see options. When you do that, the mind is going to be a very good place to be in. Because at this point, when you have a problem, you understand, hey, I also have solutions. And that makes it to feel great. It feels like, oh, I'm not trapped. It feels like, oh, I can do something about it. Oh, I can improve the situation. And that's what makes your mind to feel great. So get perspective. What's your best advice in 4 words or less? Congratulations, Magdalena. This is the worst question that I got today, because this is a very lazy question. It's like, in 4 words or less. I was like, oh, let me give you the best advice, but it has to be in 4 words or less, because otherwise, well, I guess it's not going to be good advice. It's not going to be useful. You cannot take it in. It's like you don't have enough time to read it. Maybe you're busy or that kind of thing. Questions like this are literally, and I know that I knew that today I'm going to give the word to the most silliest questions of them all. And today, ta-da, this is the one. Questions like this basically show that, oh, and I see 509 comments. That hurts even more. Like, the question is very silly, but the fact that 509 people took the time to write a comment to respond to this stupid question, well, let's just say that being a life coach is not always fun, okay? If you care, when you care about people's progress and you see this, you go like, oh God. Not to mention that 60 people liked or loved this question. Okay, this is where life coaching is not fun, but let's go with it. If I want to help you and to make this question useful for you, please understand how silly this is. Please understand that. Like, there is nothing intelligent that I can say about this question except the fact that it's stupid. It's stupid, it's lazy, and it just comes from a place of just give me, not just like give me one thing, which, points to a previous question that we got. It's just like, give me one thing that is in 4 words or less. Oh God, some people are so far away from doing anything meaningful with their lives that saying this is just painful. This is just painful. So, okay, so let me answer the question. What is your best advice in 4 words or less? Stop asking stupid questions. Perfect. How would you live differently with abundance? Now, I want you to first notice something about this question. This question is framed as in like, you are not in a place of abundance, right? That's why there is this word different, right? So you are not in a place of abundance, but how would you live differently with abundance? As in like, you are not in abundance, but if abundance would be there, how would you live different? Well, let me give you the good news. Abundance is here. You always have abundance right now. Even if you don't have money to pay the rent, there is abundance. There is abundance of knowledge. You have the internet and it's free, and there is a lot of valuable information and resources. You can read, you can watch videos, you can literally educate yourself free on the internet. If that's not abundance, what is? But you see, the problem is that most people, when they think like scarcity versus abundance, mainly they think money. Well, education is the precursor of money, and you have an abundance of that. Well, isn't that the equivalent of being or having an abundance of money? Yes, but you see, education to be transformed into money, that means it goes through work. Somebody, mainly you, the person asking the question, have to go somewhere on the internet and put in days and weeks and months and years on educating yourself. I'm not saying that internet is the only way, but educating yourself, getting that abundance source of information as knowledge, as education, and then at one point you're going to see that you can transform that into a business, into some form of value that you can give to other people, and they're going to pay you in advance. And then you're going to get also financial abundance. So Just to answer this question, abundance is everywhere if you know where to search, and if you know what to do with it, and if you are willing to put in the work to use it. Pretty good. How does consistency help us to achieve our goals in life? Oh God, this is not kind of like a bad question, but it's kind of like, it's pretty very, very much basic. Like, person asking this question, like, it's so basic. Okay, here's why this is basic. It's because, well, best example. You want to move from point A to point B, somewhere on the map, right? Well, if you are here right now, and so let's call this point B, and 5 meters ahead, that's point B. If I want to reach from here to there, point A to point B, what I have to do is just literally put step by step by step. I will do 10 steps, I don't know, it's like few steps, and I'm there. But in order for me to transition between point A and point B, from where I am to where I want to be, one thing would need to happen is me literally put the step by step by step by step in the same direction, because the point B, it's pretty specific. I have to put step by step by step in a consistent manner in the same direction, and then it's just a matter of time until I get there. So coming back to and this is the most basic example that I can come with. So how does consistency help us to achieve our goals? I don't know. It gets you there. That's what I have. Which book has a huge impact on your life? Again, right now the focus is not on the answer that I'm giving, like the book, because that's not really the valuable thing, but the valuable thing that I can give you is the following. Let's focus on the question. The question basically asks, as in, like, tell me, you guys, what was the book that was had like a huge impact in your life, so I know it and I will read it and I will potentially get the same impact. That's kind of the logic, right? Well, that's false, because that's kind of like a false expectation, because 10 people can read the same book, but they're not going to get the same value out of it. So this question is just useless. You maybe find what worked for other people, but there's no guarantee that will work for you. So it's kind of like looking in the wrong place. How does one make most out of life? How do you make most out of life? Most. As in, like, rich, like live like a rich life, like your life to be great, fantastic life. Okay. So from that perspective, I think it has to tie down to the purpose, to the ultimate purpose, is the way I describe it, the ultimate purpose of life. The ultimate purpose of life is growth and contribution. It's for you to grow, to develop, to expand, to learn, to get new skills, to experience, to get expertise, to become useful. So you grow to a point that you have something to contribute, something to give back, right? You can write a book, you can create an app, you can create a show, you can create something with what you have, with those skills that you have grown, with how you developed yourself. You can give something back to the world. So the most out of life, or the best life lived, is a life of meaningful, joyful contribution. What does this mean? It means a life where you grow yourself and you enjoy the process of learning and, becoming the best version of yourself, and then contributing with something in return that also makes you happy to give. And that makes your life not just useful to others because you contribute back to society and to life itself. Life bring you here, so you have to contribute something back. So it's not just that you contribute, but you also enjoy the very process of growth and contribution. So that would be my very definition of making the most out of life. Well, we responded to this one. As a 40-year-old, and I think this is the last question, as a 40-year-old entrepreneur, what is more important to you, time, money, or energy? Well, this question might be specific. Maybe the author has kind of like a very specific point that he is trying to get. Okay, I'm not judging that, but I want you to notice that sometimes it's just like creating false, some people are creating false dichotomies, like false problems. Is it time, is it money, or is it energy, right? I'm saying like, hey, how about all of them? How about all of them? But if you want to pick one, let's say that you have to pick one, I will definitely go with time and then energy and then money. Like I would put them in order. Time first, because time is not money. Time is actually life. So the amount of life that you have to live on this planet, that you are blessed to live, well, that's the most valuable thing to have. It's time. Then the second one is energy, because you see, if you have time, but you don't really have the energy to do anything, like to show, to create, to bring something valuable in the world, then your time is not going to be very useful. Like you're not going to be very valuable. That's not going to be very valuable time. And then money, it's not important at all in this equation, because if you have time and if you have energy to create something valuable, then money is going to be just a result. So that's it for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this session where I answered a few questions in a way that looked fun for me. Hopefully it also was useful. I'm going to continue to make this series very, like it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, that's it. I'm going to see you in the next one.